Welcome back to Bits of an Artist's Life. This is Sandy Hester. Happy New Year. It's a new year. It feels a little weird saying that because it is December 27th as I'm filming this, but you'll be watching this in the new year, and I want to do a proper video of looking back and looking forward because last year I started off like the first part of the year very wobbly, very all over the place with my inspiration and my paintings. I want to talk to you about that, show you some of those paintings. But I implemented 4 things that just grounded me, set my paintings off in a whole new way, and grew in my art and my creativity in a way that I haven't done in a long, long time. And I'm going to keep those 4 things in place for this next year. So let me first talk to you a little about the season of wobbliness, wobbly, but just a little woof. Show you some of the paintings from that season. They're great paintings, but you'll see they're all over the place. Then I want to tell you about the 4 things that I put into place and how I implemented those things. Okay, so first off, that season I think really represented how I've been doing art for a long time. You know that I love to use a lot of different mediums. I have a lot of different inspiration, and that's great. I think that will always be the case, at least the different inspiration. I love painting landscapes, figures, still lifes, animals, blah, 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 all the things. But I found myself really struggling for inspiration or for a good momentum, keeping that momentum of creativity, because it's like I would only paint when I was inspired by something. I mean, I was painting still daily, but I would struggle for that. So I'd be looking through my art books. I've got a new art book on abstracts. So it's like, I want to paint some abstracts. So I'd have maybe a couple days of painting abstracts or just do 2 or 3 paintings. Then I would be looking through photos from my Santa Fe trip and I had paintings that I did from inspiration going through this folk art museum, or I'd go out to paint at a park. And so then I was just all over the place. Wonderful paintings. I'm going to show you a stack of those paintings that I've been keeping for quite a while and show you how all over the place. Now I'm going to show them to you in like series, like little groupings, but that's not, I don't think, how I was painting them for the most part. So let's take a look at those paintings and you can see the all overness and maybe feel a little how I was feeling in that, like, let's do this, let's do that. I'm inspired by this now. Let me paint a little bit like this. Not copying people's work, but just needing or only painting from like the inspiration instead of some of the things that I put into place later. So let me show you those, then we'll come back and chat about the 4 things that I put into practice. These are not in the order that I made them. I put them in groupings so you can kind of see them as a group, but I was making these all over the place. So just remember that as we go through these. This first grouping is where I was really inspired from some pictures I took at a folk art museum in Santa Fe. We did a whole class on that trip, filmed it, and you can see a lot of those pictures and footage in that class called Memories of the Landscape, Capturing Your Travels in Your Sketchbook. I did this series of paintings, you can see how weird they are, using just things from all over that museum and making it my own. I love these, but they are really interesting. I kind of go back and forth from working sometimes in these like flat shapes, but I was basically collaging things together. And these are on really big pieces of paper. I got this massive amount of stacks of paper. They're basically old prints of this guy that was like cleaning out his studio. Don't think, let's see. These next 2 are this way, so you won't be able to see the whole thing there. But again, she flies in the clouds and rides on the wind. I do like this one too. I think these would make really nice, like some of these, like this one, these 2, one of these look wonderful in like a kid's room. If there's any of these that you see that you like, take a screenshot and email us from my website and we can give you a price on shipping and everything. But again, like kind of weird. Some of those may remind y'all of maybe kind of when I started the channel, the YouTube channel, and I was doing like that Under the Table series, which was really weird. I mean, again, what is this? Bananas and stars. I think I was gonna do more layers on that and didn't get around to it. Okay, then, there were some days where I was like, oh, let's do some abstracts. Got inspired by some abstracts and making marks. I was probably doing like this one day and then a still life one day. Or these faces. I did do these right here over a few days, like together. So these were semi-together. But again, there's just 3 of them, I think. There could be some smaller ones someplace else. I love these. I love all of this work, but it just, when I'm doing like this one day and then, this one day, you'll see what I mean in a minute. So then weird faces, weird colorful faces. One week I was getting inspired by my friend's quilts. She gets inspired by my work, I get inspired by her work. So I was then doing, I think I did a few of these, but I can't find them. I don't know if some of them sold, but this was like a quilt of things in the sky. And it was really fun to do, but I did like just 2 or 3. Here's another version of that I started but didn't finish. I was gonna do it kind of like a patchwork of things in the garden, and then I had this thing I was gonna write on top. I had this saying, I can't remember what it was. This paper has some really great texture. I think I'm gonna paint on that. I need to set that aside to paint on that. Actually, throw that over. Then I did this series. It wasn't even a series, it was like 3 or 4 paintings. I do have these up on my website. I know at least one sold, but Things of Spring. I think it was becoming spring, and so I was doing all these paintings that I love, but they don't look anything, like, why am I doing abstracts? Once in a blue moon I do an abstract, but it's just these kind of one-offs, even though sometimes it's like 2 or 3, but it's just something I got inspired to do. Then I got inspired to do these kind of collage-like paintings. I have some really large works. Some have already sold, but this was more of a series. Maybe at this point now I'm moving more to a series, because I did do a lot of paper works like this and larger works. In fact, I have one of these over my fireplace right now. But again, it kind of doesn't have any, I don't know, tie-in. Here's another one that's like that. I think these are okay because I did do several. I did a bunch of paper ones and a bunch of like really large canvas ones, but like this, I think I painted when my friends Sarah Moore and Emily Powell, we get together and paint on Zoom, but random, like this one-off of this random thing. I'm pretty sure this was also one that we did together on Zoom, but no, maybe this was, no, I did this from some zoo sketches. Again, like just these one-offs. It's just kind of these all over the place. I would be looking through, I don't know, pictures from my trip. You're like, oh, I think I want to do this, or I think I want to do these owls and do them with some, just all these kind of random ideas. Spring came, and then it's like, I think I still had this thought of the quilt, but then I didn't love it like this, so then I'm making it like this. I was just really all over the place and feeling like I was struggling, because I would do several like this and then I'd be bored and I didn't know what to do next. So then I thought, Sandy, just get back to painting. Oh, here's another stack I want to show you. Only painting from your sketches. Then I did that for quite a while, and I wanted to show you some of these. Now, these works over here, there's so much more of this. There's tons on canvas, on board, more paintings. I just wanted to show you this really large stack of larger works that I love and haven't photographed, and they're just in a big stack because I wanted you to see the all-overness of it. A couple days I'm doing abstract, and then I'm doing these quilt paintings, and then I'm doing and needing this inspiration, feeling very scattered. So then I thought, only paint from your sketches. So then I would get my sketchbooks out, and here we go. Here is a series, paintings from parks. Now again, these are not in order either. It would be like, here I'm painting this one day, and then I'm painting something from our trip to England, and then I'm painting something from Santa Fe trip, and again, all over, limiting myself though to painting just from your sketchbook, my own sketchbooks, and still struggling. Loving these paintings, they're great, but I was still struggling a little bit. Again, any of these that you're interested in, take a screenshot and email us. I mean, a lot of these I don't even have like labeled, like I was just blowing through these, and a lot of these are things that I should photograph and get up on the website. I just haven't. So again, all these are park ones. I mean, I think this one was done literally at the park. Yep. Then painting from some of my old paintings. This is from a really large painting that sold. More park paintings. Again, I love the work. Don't hear me say that this isn't good work. It's just there's something about the mental aspect that is so important about your work. And this was a season, the first part of the year, where I was really struggling and feeling like I was floundering. Didn't mean that I wasn't creating great work, but there's something as an artist that we want a balanced mind also, and to not feel so struggling. And so all of this work pushed me into the place that I'm in now that feels very exciting, and I'm seeing a ton of growth in my work. So that's why I want to show you this first. Then this is a bunch of work from my trip to Santa Fe. I don't think I've even shown most of this or any of this. I think all this sat in a big pile and never really got shown. You know, I would blow out maybe like 10 of these a day. Like I know this whole little stack I did all in one day. So a boatload of work, playing, sometimes very abstract. I don't even know. I think I have like just a couple of paintings up on my website from Santa Fe, because there's all of these. So that was playing around with different marks and different ways of putting paint down. And then like this was one day I got really inspired and excited about collage. So this is like a mix of collage and paint. And that felt very exciting, but then I was like over it and I didn't do any more. And that's what I'm talking about. It's like I'd have these little spurts or bursts of inspiration, but then I would hit a wall. There wasn't something that just fed and fed until I hit on what I hit on at the end of the year. And now I'm not having so much of these like walls that I hit. The painting that I did from a sketch of mine or a painting of mine from England. More from England. These are really great. And again, these are not up on the website. I also, partly through the year, developed a better practice for photographing and getting up on my website. And that was after all of this work. So that's why none of it's up yet. This right here is so thick. This is like wallpaper. And the texture on this is just really stunning. Another one that I did not finish this actually. I need to do some more to these. Will it ever get done? Actually, it is done, because I won't probably ever go back and finish it. And then some more large ones from the Santa Fe trip. Again, all these are done right here from my own sketches. And then, you know, I'd have like a random duck. I painted this from my sketchbook, but, you know, maybe one day I'm doing this and then I'm doing the weird duck. That was this season, and what this season looked like. I can't remember, because most of this is not even dated, like when I realized, okay, I have to do something different. Okay, so you can see there all over the place. And I don't know if you felt the all over the place. For you, that may be fine. And I think there was a long season of growth that you kind of have to, you know, try this material, try this type of painting, try this like new subject, all over. But at some point, you've got to start kind of reining it in. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to rein in materials or the subject, but you'll see what I mean in just a minute. The very first thing that I did that I realized that I needed to do was cut off all inspiration. I needed to stop needing to go to places to get the juice, to get the like, oh, I want to go paint. That was what I've been doing for a long, long, long time. Instead of having the skills to just lean in and start painting on the series that I'm working on, which we'll get to that in a minute. So I cut off things like I stopped doing all of the Patreons. I only had a few that I was part of, but no Patreons, no scrolling through Instagram, especially my Instagram where I've got saved like things of inspiration. No looking at art books. I've got a section on my computer where I've got paintings that are inspiration, whether I've gone to museums or wherever. Collection of things like if I need to kind of get that like jolt of inspiration. None of that. I did not allow myself to look at any of that in the way that I've been looking at it in the past. And I'll tell you why it was in that way in just a second. Number 2, I leaned in heavily, and I'm continuing to lean in to focus on composition and value. I realized that's my stumbling block. That's where I really, really need to grow. In fact, I think that's probably where all artists need to grow. Sometimes I think it's in other ways, and it's because value and composition are kind of behind the scenes. I taught on this on the in-person workshop that I did, and I think it was really helpful to those that came to learn. Like, it's kind of the behind the scenes, the structure of the building. Like, you just look at the building, you look at the shutters and the architect, but the things that are holding up that building is what we really need to be focusing on, which is value and composition. So I have been just reading books on that. I've been taking time to study that in a whole strew of different ways. So the way I would use my inspiration looking at other things, whether it was art books or Instagram, whatever, would be like, let's say I was going to Maine. I was going on this trip to Maine or Italy, or I'm going to set up a still life and do paintings of still life, whatever that was. Then I would allow myself to only look at that art, maybe like I've got a still life book. Look at it not for inspiration, but composition or even value. Mainly composition though. How are they structuring? The ones that I like, how are they structuring that? What is the composition? How are they leading the eye through that painting? My friend, I've got an artist friend who does this all the time. She's an amazing, accomplished artist, and she is mainly a still life artist, and she looks at the old masters that she loves and will replicate their compositions. She doesn't copy their paintings. She will set up a tablescape in the same way that this other artist that she likes. And that had been in the back of my mind. So it's like, okay, look at composition. Now, what's hard about that is then I would get to scrolling and then I'm just feeling inspired, and it's like I have to rein it in and say, no, just look at the composition, which usually didn't take very long. So I need to close the book or shut off the Instagram, whatever, put that down and then go paint with those compositions in mind. So that's how I used the inspiration. It wasn't even inspiration, it was learning. Thirdly, I made myself work in series. For the most part, I would let myself get off little tangents if it was like, we're gonna be traveling and we're gonna be in a coffee shop, or at Thanksgiving I had my sketchbook out and was sketching stuff, like family members and stuff while we were sitting around after eating. So sometimes there were these little tangents, but for the most part I was making myself stay in a series. My friend Peggy Crow Roberts posted something. She posted like maybe a little article or part of an article, and I read part of it. It was about working in a series. It was more about, or the part of it that I read was more about telling who you are and blah, blah, blah. But there was something about the work in a series that just stayed with me. Not so much about whatever this article said, because I didn't feel like those things that the article talked about, or just a little bit that I read, really applied to how I felt about series. But I thought, Sandy, if you're working on composition, but you've got a series, you've got a subject. So maybe the subject is owls. I did like a little owl series. Or when I went to Maine, when I got back from Maine, I was a little over landscape, so I wanted to paint other things. That's how I am. I kind of get bored, but I said, nope, paint from those paintings that you did in Maine, work some more from those. Like, it's kind of like working out, just stay in it and work on value and composition. So sometimes learning isn't nearly as fun as just inspiration and just like, oof. But I've been realizing, like, let's rein it in and grow in these skills. And I do feel like my skills have been just like on lately. So like the OWL series, make yourself stay in that and think about and feel the freedom of, I don't really have to think about the subject. I can work on some of the fun things, which is like mark making and things like that, but mainly composition and value. What I did with my series was, I think sometimes what I would find myself doing is sometimes I'd get inspired and maybe I would do 2 to 4 paintings. So I thought, okay, 4 or 5 can't be it. So I set my thing of like, it needs to be like 8 to 15. You've got to at least make like 8 paintings, because I get bored and I plummet out. And I think what I'm needing is to press in and not just go off on another subject, because I can't grow in the things that I want to grow in if I just floundering around with inspiration. So things like that OWL series, I did my normal 2 or 3 and then felt bored and would really want, it's almost like an addict, I'd want to go look for inspiration to do something else, and I would say, no, don't do it. Go paint another owl. Go get a different size canvas, whatever, but you have got to go paint an owl. You've got to make it to at least 8. I can't remember if I made it to 8. I need to go count. I think I did, including my sketches, because sometimes I was doing like end of day sketches. And I found that if I could just get over that little hump of like I'm bored, but then just get into painting, it was really fun. And I found that my muscles were growing in those skills and it became really fun. It's been really freeing. I still find it hard at times, maybe after, especially when I get to like painting 4, I'm kind of feeling over, but then when I get past that, it's really been wonderful. Fourthly, I don't think this is as big of a deal, but it's something that in the early days of all of this I did, and that was limit supplies. I went through a really fun season of playing with all kinds of supplies, and it was in a season where I was just in kind of a change in the way I was making art, which was totally fine. But I've come to realize that I am definitely a painter. I like to make marks with paint. Sometimes I like to draw, but I am mainly a painter. So I even just packed up the majority of my stuff. As you can see, the studio has changed a lot. You're going to see it. The next 2 videos I think I filmed before I started doing a major overhaul to the studio. But after that, you're going to be seeing a lot of new things in the studio. And I'm going to be giving you a tour and all that probably in February. What was I saying? If I get off on a little tangent like that, I can't remember what I'm saying. Oh, limited my supply. So I even packed up a lot of stuff and just put it in another room. Things that I'm like, I'm not using that anymore. I don't need it out for decoration. I'm trying to get more space in here. I need space. I'm like suffocating in the studio. So I've limited myself, mainly even in my sketchbooks, but definitely on canvas and paper works outside the sketchbook, to paint. So my watercolor gouache palette, which I've got videos up here if you want to know what that looks like, got those, and then my acrylics, and that's it. I have been keeping my favorite color pencils out, because sometimes if I'm going to a coffee shop, or like when I went to Thanksgiving, it was nice to not have like wet medium, just to have some color pencils and sketching some things and keeping up my drawing skills in that. But for the most part, I am just working from paint. Now you may wonder why I do that. Mainly because, sorry, I'm looking at my battery. I feel the battery saying, let's wrap this up, hurry up. Mainly because there was a season where I loved working in a bunch of different materials, and then it felt exciting to come back and try to translate those different materials and marks into paint. That felt really fun, but that's not where I am anymore. I'm in composition value land, needing to grow there. So if I keep my materials the same, because French ultramarine and watercolor and French ultramarine and acrylic, though they feel differently as they're going down, it's the same color and value. So if I don't have all that other stuff that I'm learning or playing with, then I can just lean into composition and value. So that's what I've done. More than likely at some point I'll go and play with other materials. I love inspiration and playing with new materials, but for now, that's what I've limited myself to, and I've really just been enjoying it. It's nice to be able to not take 50 million supplies out with me. It's nice to just know that I'm just grabbing this, whether I'm painting on Zoom with friends or going out someplace. Here's my limited supply. So I'm also finding that I can pack with far fewer things, and my bags are lighter. All that's just simpler. So that's what I did. I don't know, maybe middle of the year. I can't remember when I started making that transition. Some of those things were in like a little bit of progression, but at some point, definitely by the fall, I'd established those things, and it's been huge for me. And I'm definitely now doing that going forth in the new year. Simplify all those things, continue to majorly grow in composition and value, limit what I'm looking at, and when I do look at things, only look at them for those things of composition and value. It really is hard to make your eyes like in tune to that, and I want to grow in that skill too. It is weird. Now I see that all over the place. Like when I'm watching TV or if I'm looking out the window, I see everything in composition now, which is great. That is a game changer for me because I know the different compositions that I like. I'm growing in others, kind of adding more to my here are the 5 that I really like, and I see it now, which means when I go out to paint, I can find a composition and get into painting and make a better painting quicker because I know what I'm looking for and I know the path that I want to make the eye lead around in my painting. So makes me excited for this year. We've got some trips coming up, trips planned, just a lot of stuff for this next year. Hopefully some major things that we've been working on in the background, like major, that we'll be able to tell you about this year, but we'll see. So there is my wrap up of last year, looking back and looking forward. I hope those things were helpful. Don't feel like you've got to like put all those 4 things into practice yourself, but maybe that was a help. I think the next video we're doing is looking at darks, how to make beautiful rich darks, and then the next video will be lights, how to make beautiful, vibrant, not toothpaste looking whites. And then I think after that will be a studio tour. Okay, I'll see you back here in, oops, I'm still not counting well, 2 weeks. 2 weeks, friends. See you then. Happy New Year.